Beautiful blue skies, race morning, Easter Monday at Nogaro, the opening round of the Blancpain Sprint Series. And the skies are blue. The track is certainly warmer than it was yesterday morning when we had qualifying. We have a 20-minute warm-up ahead of us, John Watson. And how do you see it? A day of great excitement in the qualifying race yesterday. That sorted the grid for today, but now we'll see who can really run in these conditions.
Absolutely, and I'm actually, in fairness, the first thing I can see actually are the Pyrenees. I've never seen them before, and we've got such a magic, clear, gin-clear day here in Nogaro Easter Monday. And there is the view. That's the pits complex. This is the second attempt at the pits complex. We are sitting sort of to the left of the picture on screen, and some of the beauty shots of this very rural and lovely part of southwest France.
Yeah, it's quite a treat driving in this morning. As you said, John, we could see the Pyrenees. A little bit of frost on the ground in the hollows, so it was cool overnight, but conditions absolutely wonderful today. As I said, 20 minutes of warm-up, but yesterday we had quite a few cars going off, and in fact we've lost one car for the entire race meeting now, the number one Audi.
Yes, I mean, a real disappointment for, I think, everybody, let alone for the WRT Audi team in qualifying yesterday. Newcomer Robin Frians to the number one Audi, along with Laurens Van Thor, who is in a sense the star driver in the team this season, has certainly been so over previous seasons. Lost control of the back of the car coming through turn 14. The quick left-hander that leads onto the start-finish straight. The car went into a long looping, effectively very harmless spin, but then got onto the damp grass, and of course there was no de-acceleration whatsoever, and it hit the wall, but it hit it sort of flat on. We didn't think an awful lot about it in the commentary booth. We saw a little bit of bodywork damage, but then realization was that there was something more substantial, and as it turns out, the suspension mounting point within the chassis, it's an aluminium chassis in the Audi, that was, I mean, effectively knocked out. I mean, you could see the split between the aluminium weld and the parts of the aluminium chassis leg. So that chassis has been deemed redundant forever. The tragedy of that is, of course, that this particular car is the car that WRT won last year's Spa 24 Hours with. So, I mean, in some senses, maybe that car should have been mothballed, as you do if you've got a winning Le Mans car or a winning, a very important motorsport event car. You sometimes just take it away, put it into a museum, and it becomes a part of the folklore of that brand. So the car will be now made redundant, but of course it means the number one Audi is not going to be competing here today.
Yeah, with 33 points on offer, 8 points for yesterday, the winner of yesterday's qualifying race, and 25 for the winner of this afternoon's main race. That's a big dent in a championship of only 7 rounds, the Sprint Series.
It's difficult. I mean, it can be made up, but of course, I mean, if you consider who won the qualifying race yesterday, that was Stefan Racchelny and Stefano Telli. They did a very, very sound job, led from pole position, never really challenged. Great round of pit stops, chased all the way by the BMW Sports Trophy Team Brazil, Z4 BMW, Maxime Martin, Dirk Müller. Dirk Müller started the race and hunted the Audi all the way. The two teams came in at the same time, did pit stops. Nobody won or lost in the pit stops. The Audi got out ahead of the BMW. Maxime Martin behind the wheel this time, pushed like crazy to try and get on terms with Racchelny in the Audi. And they finished, the gap between the two of them was a little over half a second or so as they came across the start-finish line after 39 laps.
We also had the sort out at the second corner on lap 1, in which one of the race favourites, Maxi Buch, his Bentley was put into a spin by Marcus Winkelhock's Audi. The other Bentley with Jules Simkowiak pitched off into the gravel. Kevin Estra's McLaren, the front end was damaged. But we've had a lot of comeback drives. But it does mean the order for this race this afternoon is certainly jumbled from what we'd have expected. Yes,
and also towards the end of the race, I was making my way down to Parc Fermé, and I'm listening to the commentary, and I'm hearing suddenly the McLaren that had been heavily damaged, but being driven extremely well by Rob Bell and Kevin Estra. Penultimate lap. I can't see what's happening.
Well, when you left the booth, it was in third place.
It was.
Tattered bodywork or not. And it fell back on. We then lost James Nash with a slow puncture. So the order really changed, and suddenly Bernd Schneider, who took over from Alexei Karachev down in about 17th position, brought it up to 5th.
Yeah, and that was the leading Pro-Am car in the top 10. The other car that performed well, again just stayed out of trouble, was the Siegfried Siedler Rinaldi Racing Ferrari 458 Italia. That was a car, very much a midfield car at the start of the race, but because they stayed out of trouble, they didn't get involved in nudging and bumping and whatever else, they managed to get that car to the top 4.
Out on the track at the moment, looking at the number 74 Audi, shared by the Fjordbach brothers, and they rose up to, where were they? It's 7th place overall, top Silver Cup class, but they showed a great performance in the middle, and now out on track, as you can see, they're just warming up the tyres, very important, still quite cool this morning, despite the blue skies, but following the 83 Bentley down into turn 7 at the end of the back straight, that was the one that Jules Simkowiak was pretty unlucky not to get to turn 3 in yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, they were a party to what was, in effect, an innocent shunt. So the two Bentleys, first of all, it was the car of Max Buch got tagged by Marcus Winkelhock, and then there was a sympathy collision from Simkowiak. So the Max Buch car got running again, but Simkowiak's car, unfortunately, had to be removed by the wreckers, the pickup truck, and taken away and didn't continue. So for Bentley, I mean, a lot of promise here at Nogaro on a racetrack which arguably they would say isn't a circuit that will play to the strengths of the Bentley Continental. So they had to regroup to get Simkowiak's car repaired. There was a bit of damage to the back of the Bentley. Also another car that showed potential was the Sean Walkinshaw Craig Dolby Nissan GT3 Nismo, and it again had a massive ding in the boot of the car. Didn't get to complete a racing lap, so hoping that that car will show the potential. And for the front engine cars as opposed to the mid-engine cars, it's sort of split, sort of 2/3, 1/3 mid-engine to front engine.
Well, Olivier Lombard in the 83 Bentley will be the first driver to set a flying lap, and he's gone past the point at which the car fell off yesterday at the start of the race. The fastest lap yesterday, for your reference, set by Maxime Martin, his first lap out when he took over the 77 BMW from Dirk Muller, 1 minute 27.546, but we have seen laps in the 1 minute 24 bracket. Don't expect them this morning, they're not going qualifying.
Well, again, the reason we got those very, very quick laps were partly, not exclusively, because we've got 6 sets of tyres available at the start of this meeting. The first 2 sets of tyres were run for free practice, and then they sort of get relegated. And then the remaining 4 sets of tyres are the tyres, and these are all new tyres, which is a unique situation for the opening race. And people had opportunities to run the new tyre, where in other races in future they will be more circumspect with the use of the new tyre, maybe holding back 1 set for the qualifying race, where you've got the massive points haul for the top 10 cars.
Right, so we've just seen the first flying lap. Olivier Lombard, 1 minute 29.159, and then 149, and then just behind 1 minute, no, he's now been beaten.
Yeah,
Christopher Mies, the number 2 WRT Audi, 1 minute 28.464. The yellow Mercedes, this is the one that was driven with such gusto yesterday afternoon by Bernd Schneider, and he's now set the fastest first sector, so looking very good indeed for the 70 Mercedes.
Yeah, I mean, Bernd Schneider, what can you say about this man? He's won everything in effect in touring cars and in GT racing, especially in the longer distance, 6, 12, 24, or in some cases probably longer at the Nürburgring. And he just gets in and drives the car, and it's all that experience, ability, skill, largely maturity, and a sort of a sense of he reads the racetrack. He's not looking at this corner, he's looking through the corner towards what's happening at the exit and beyond that, and that's just something that you only gain with experience.
Yep, so he slots in second fastest, so Christopher Mies still top of the time charts. 14 cars have set flying that rather slow one in 14th place from Albert von Taxis, the 88 Lamborghini. I don't know if he has come into the pits and then gone out again. Okay, so not a proper flying lap. Riding on board with Maxime Martin, one of the stars, if not the star of yesterday's race. And he set the fastest lap, as we said, 1 minute 27.546 yesterday. Looking good, but not the ultimate pace.
I mean, he's done 1 out lap, which was, of course, a very slow lap in relative terms. He's on a quicker lap now, but again, the team know what the car is going to do. They're just running it at this point. They're not attempting to go out and set the fastest lap. We'll see what he does when he completes. This will be his 3rd timed lap, so 132 was his previous lap, and that one was also a 132.549, so he's just literally out there cruising around, and I suspect he might be just bedding in a set of pads or discs. He's not pushing the car, and he's just doing a little bit of the work a driver will do from time to time when you get an opportunity. Track temperatures are low at the minute. It's a beautiful morning here, but But an hour ago when we were coming in, there was a lot of frost, ground frost, on the fields all the way through from our hotel to the racetrack. A little bit better here because the sun's now beaming down on the circuit, but nevertheless, the difference between where we are now and just after 1 o'clock when this main race gets underway will be very considerable indeed.
Yeah, it did really warm up through yesterday. Good to see a rather more complete looking number 55 McLaren today with Rob Bell at the wheel. We had he and Kevin Estre running a really tatty model yesterday with half the front bodywork having been removed on turn 2 on the opening lap. Christopher Mies now in the 1:27s, fastest of all in the number 2 Audi, and this is Albert Fontana-Taxis riding on board with the only Lamborghini in the race, entered by Reiter Engineering.
Yes, we got a quick glimpse of Hans Reiter there in the pits. His facial expressions in 2/3 race distance yesterday in the qualifying race when we saw Albert Fontana-Taxis coming into turn 12 backwards, and we assumed it was a driver error. Then we thought about it more closely, and while we didn't have a camera shot of that particular point, we did get confirmation from Fontana-Taxis that he said he was tapped
by Rob Bell, who was getting chased.
And the trouble is the McLaren, there was so much damage in the front of it, you couldn't really tell if the damage was any greater as a consequence because there was just so much of it on the front of the McLaren.
I went down to Parc Fermé after the race, and a little bit of bodywork where there might have been contact was missing, so I think we could back up what Albert said.
Yeah, and I mean, coming into a corner like turn 12, I mean, it's not a quick corner, but it's like everywhere around this racetrack, the car's just balanced at the point where you're still on the brakes and you're just about to enter the corner, the most exposed part of the race car, and if there's any contact, it'll just break the rear end traction and away you go. Hans Reiter again keeping well wrapped up in the Lamborghini garage.
A little more smiley today, seems quite happy with the action. So Christopher Mies top of the charts, 1:27.681. Bernd Schneider second in the 17 Mercedes, 1:28.061. Just afraid a fraction ahead of the number 4 Audi with James Nash on board. So it's Audi, Mercedes, Audi at the top. And then a pair of Bentleys, 4th and 5th.
Yep.
Vincent Abril and Olivier Lombard.
Yes, Vincent Abril, former Audi driver, now in the Bentley squad, and we've got a problem with the Nissan indeed. Now, why? Is that stopped or is that... It looks like it's just pulled off. So suddenly the Nissan, Craig Dolby behind the wheel of that car. Certainly they had a misfortunate start.
Well, they hadn't set a flying lap, so this really isn't good at all.
The rear of this car was quite heavily damaged, but that's obviously been bodywork, pretty superficial, I suspect. And now the car stopped coming out on the exit of turn 6.
Turn 6, we can see it straight ahead of our commentary position. Double waved yellows, as you can see, alerting the drivers. Obviously a fairly safe bit of track because they're just accelerating away out of turn 5 and generally are on the far side of the circuit there. But not what the MRS GT team wanted this morning.
And just watching from our commentary position, we can see directly across the circuit they've got one of the retrieval vehicles pulling up alongside to see whether they're going to have to tow this Nissan to safety. I don't know what the problem is. Whatever it is, certainly the car looks like it's not able to continue under its own power, so it's going to have to be towed back. And we've only got another 8 to 10 minutes or so of this 20-minute session remaining.
Looking at the 84 Bentley with Vincent Abril over the curb at turn 14. This was the turn on the start-finish straight that didn't cause so much trouble. It was the problem started there, particularly for the Audi drivers, and that was the one that cost us the number 1 Audi when Robin Friens got the car snapping away from him, and then, as you said, John, went for a slide across the track, an even faster slide across the grass, and just backed into the pit wall. Not the pit wall, the sort of wall before pit entry.
Yes, it's like a wall to protect the pit lane entry. So, and it was amazing, no, not amazing, it was the Audis that were getting caught out at that part of the track more than anybody else, which is then indicative, characteristic of the Audi, that in very cold track conditions, the knife edge sharp, and there's that one of the BMWs being driven back onto track as well. It's been off somewhere coming out of turn 6, for goodness sake. How do you get, what's all that? Look at the front of the car. He's been off at the edge or into turn 6 or out of turn 6. And it's which car?
Looks more like a snowplow. I think it's the Zero.
Well, that is carrying the best part of a...
It is the Zero.
Dread, I think, how much weight's on that front splitter.
So that's Riccardo Sparafico. Yes. Reminds me, I must cut the lawn when I get home.
Yeah, or cut the moss, whichever.
Yes. Quite so. Gosh, that really, it does look Most unusual sight. No damage to the.
Well, it's a strange play because that's happened on the exit of turn 6, which is not a corner, but it may have been that somewhere in the turn 5 approach to turn 6 that it actually all got wrong, so we didn't again have that on camera. Maybe there's something we can
well, he won't be able to deny that he's been off when he comes into the pit. But then again, he shouldn't have to worry too much.
Oh, and look at the Ferrari coming through 13, just having to check up. There's the Ferrari at the back end. You could see it again. Track temperatures are still much lower than they were at race time yesterday, and what they will be at race time this afternoon. So even though drivers are familiar now with the racetrack and they've got probably more rubber down than they had at this time on Saturday morning, there are still areas on the track where you can get caught, and obviously the BMW has been caught, and we saw the Ferrari momentarily, and this is Siegfried behind the wheel, but everything seems pretty good at the minute.
Keep it on the track, John. I just saw Riccardo Sparaffico come in, and the damage does seem to be only whatever grass and muck is on that front splitter. The back of the car is fine. So there's going to be a driver change down in the 333 pit, and Norbert Siedler helmeted and ready to take over from Marco Siegfried. 8 and a bit minutes remaining in this session. A lot of the teams now cycling through, putting their other driver on board. The 84 Bentley has just accelerated away from beneath us. Another slid.
Yeah, and just again, that's coming through turn 8, 9. So the Ferrari on power. The back end doesn't seem to have quite the bite that the drivers would like. So it is marginal in terms of overall grip and balance.
But the track's fairly narrow at 8 and 9. It's not a huge expanse of tarmac. So if you start sliding, you're.
Do you know what? It's an old school racetrack.
It's great,
and isn't it all the better for it?
Absolutely. You need a few blemishes.
Who wants the wide open spaces
and the billiard smooth surfaces? I think not.
Well, this is a traditional French national level racetrack. You're very popular for all kinds of events. Not so much now for single-seater racing, but more so for Gran Turismo and GT racing and Me-Jets and all the other.
And the fans are incredibly keen. They were in and they're putting their chairs at their favourite vantage points. A great one is at turn 13, because you can see turn 13, 14. You can see them coming out of 12. You can see turns 8 and 9 in front of you. You can see the cars going down the back straight. So small surprise that the experienced fans are putting their deck chairs there, sitting there with their flasks of coffee and their.
Well, they come and they're here in their motorhomes. There's some of them even brave enough to be camping, but it is a major event here in this region of southwest France. The spring Easter meeting at Nogaro, and really, I mean, we're seeing now the kind of weather we really had hoped to see all through the weekend, and I would suspect by the time we get to the start of the main race, which is scheduled for 13:10, 1:10 local time, that the ambient temperature is going to have risen significantly. All the better for us, not necessarily all the better for all the competitors, because that then changes the dynamic on how the tyre will perform as the track gets warmer and loads go into the tyre.
Well, looking at the moment now, James Nash, he's running 4th in the number 4 Audi, but the driver I think we'd really like to watch is Maxi Bouk, who's just set a purple sector time in the 84 Bentley. Not long ago he took that over, and he's 5th overall at the moment, but let's just hold our breath. And now Jules Simkowiak has set a purple sector time in the sister Bentley, so they've both taken over from their teammates Olivier Lombard and Vincent Abril, and Simkowiak now in 2nd place overall on the timesheets.
Well, we wait to see. Max Bouk has probably just gone on. He was on an outlap, I suspect, when he set that quick sector time. In fact, he's come into the pits, so that's the Bentley is back into the pits now.
So riding with James Nash still in 4th, not looking as though he's going to improve this lap. 5.5 minutes remaining in this session, and the sister Audi number 2, one of the 3 cars left in the WRT stable this weekend after the demise of number 1, lapping 4th fastest and into the pits. Ide top in the number 2 Audi with the time set by his teammate Christopher Mies.
Yes, Enzo Ide, who's been a part of the team now for a number of years and very much settled within the Audi family, as we wait to see another race simulation driver change pit stop. So Audi in.
Here the wheel guns powering away as the wheels on the right hand side of the car are changed. James Nash out, strapping Frank Stippler in. All looks quite under control, ordered, so good job, obviously a top team Team WRT.
Yeah, good work. A lot of rehearsal goes into the strategy and the mechanics of the pit stop. Look, big black lines. I suspect that rubber that we've just seen there in the exit of 5 was from the BMW Sperificos, and that's why it speared off into the grass.
Jules Simkowiak heading very fast, the fastest first sector of all in the number 83 Bentley. Looking at the moment at the 71 Mercedes, one of the GT Russian team's entries with Alexei Vasiliev on board. That got very battered early on in the second corner sort out and ran around with the bonnet taped back down yesterday, ending up last of all.
I just hope that some wisdom has broken out amongst everybody in the pits, and they do try to get through turns 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and let us have a field of cars coming down the main straight. Simkowiak,
as we can see, Simkowiak, a purple first sector, his best second sector, coming up to complete the lap any moment now. The target time, he's just under 0.05 of a second down on the number 2 Audi's best time, and it does look as though that is going to be beaten when he gets to complete the lap, which is now, and he beats it by 0.122 of a second. So 1 minute 27.559 is the new target time. Just a fraction, tiny fraction of a second slower than the fastest lap in yesterday's race. Not bad on a coolish morning.
No, it's very good. And again, it'll be on a set of tyres that, well, in fairness, because the car didn't really do any racing laps, it did 2 corners of a racing lap. It's got a fresher set of tyres available for this morning, and Simkowiak is using that to very good effect. Others may still be running on the tyres they finished yesterday, or the best of the rest of their sets of tyres, and keeping back the freshest they've got for the start of the main race. And then, of course, when they make the driver change, if they've got a fresh set or a new set even, that's a big advantage, and that'll be a part of what teams will be looking to try to achieve here this morning.
A good little pairing out on the back of the track. We've not really talked about the number 3 Audi, yesterday's race winners, Stefan Richelmy and Stefan Ortelli, and Ortelli is on board at the moment. 8th fastest at the moment. He hasn't set a particularly fast opening sector, but Stefan Ortelli's not the sort of guy who goes shooting for times. He knows what he wants to get out of the car, and he's just driven these R8s for so many years, knows the team so well, and sitting down in 8th place. But the car that came second yesterday, Dirk Muller on board, the 77 BMW, also down the order in 10th place, but they're not gunning for times.
No, I mean, the purpose of warm-up is just to really go out and ensure that everything on the car is as it should be. It's not necessarily about going out and trying to be quickest in the session. In the case of the Bentley of Simkowiak, they didn't get very much running because they were knocked out in the second corner. So they're still in a process of, I don't know how much fuel they might have on board. They may have quite a lot of fuel to simulate what the car will feel like in the opening laps. Of course, as we move, it'll be, it's 9 o'clock here, just after 9 o'clock in the morning. In 4 hours time, when this race gets underway, it will be an entirely different racetrack. But Simkowiak and Lombard, they need a little bit of track time because they're young drivers, and they are literally young drivers out of single-seater racing, coming into GT racing. I think what we're seeing, in fact, is there's a lot of young guys who are now looking at Blancpain Series and other GT3 series around the world as a very viable alternative career path.
Oh, entirely so. Change at the top of the timesheets. Frank Stippler just took over from James Nash in the number 4 Audi, so he's moved to the top of the charts. 1 minute 27.374. There is the bright yellow, easiest car to pick out in the entire field, the number 70 Mercedes. We had Bernd Schneider out in it early on. He's still there. He is in, as I looked at the screen, he's just moved from 5th down to 6th. Who went faster? Kevin Estra moved the McLaren, number 55 McLaren, up ahead of him into 5th place overall. And Maxi Bouk has just set a very useful end to his lap. He's 4th fastest at the moment. We have Bentley's 2nd and 4th. With between them 2 WRT Audi, still the number 4 with Frank Stippler, fastest of all, but it looks like Maxi Bouk could make a charge in 84. Yeah,
I mean, again, being quickest in 3rd sector normally leads into a car driver package going on and setting then a very quick lap. So we're waiting to see if Max Bouk can improve upon his 1 minute 27.7.
He set a poor opening sector there, so the answer no. And Stippler lowers the mark yet again, 1 minute 27.024. He's half a second clear now of Jules Simkowiak's Bentley.
Yeah, the Bentley back in the pit lane. As we look at the number 4 Audi, as it comes through. Yes, where's that just done? There's the checkered flag.
Is out. Yes, Bernd Schneider's just taken it, and so Rodrigo Sbarafico in the grass-dragging BMW number 0. Any quick times likely to come in? Well, Frank Stippler set the fastest first sector of all, could go into the 1 minute 26s in the number 4 Audi.
Yeah, he's had a run of 2 good laps. He just set fastest time, and now he's on another lap, which potentially, assuming that he's allowed to complete this lap.
Well, he's certainly whacking the curbs on the inside there through turn 8.
Yeah, very, very committed, and very, although he's using a little bit of curb, it's not an abuse of the curb. It's just maximising really the circuit potential. He's up behind one of his sister cars, so I suspect that'll check some of his pace. As you can see, the car's indicating it's coming in. So I don't know whether Stippler...
That's the sister car. That's Enzo Ede, I think, up ahead of him.
I don't know.
Mortelli's in the pits in the number 3, so there must be number 2 ahead of him.
Well, I think Stippler is going to complete the lap. 1:27.024 was his previous best. 2:9, so was 5,000th of a second slower, and that 5,000th was probably just slightly being cautious, coming up to the tail of the number 2 Audi of Enzo Ede, which has come into the pits.
Van Savos only has 3 cars to run this morning. It was 4 yesterday, and the number 1 entry with Robin Frientz on board obviously went off, and session and their entire race meeting curtailed at that point. Little message at the bottom of our timing screens. Cars 6 and 74 under investigation. Car 6 is the Phoenix Racing Audi of Nicky Meyer-Melnoff and Marcus Winkelhock, and 74 is the Anders and Thomas Fjordbach ISR Audi. I didn't see anything untoward from either of those. It must have been out of our sight. Well, of course, I guess the thing it probably was, we had the Nissan pulled off at the side of the circuit in front of us. They must have improved under that yellow. It was a fairly short period of yellow, but that will be their crime, most likely.
Yes, and I mean, that is the a cardinal sin amongst many, that if there's a waved or a static yellow flag, you must not go through it at a pace quicker than your previous best. So maybe just some drivers, they say, I didn't really see it, or the flag was obscured, or whatever. Problem is, there's a yellow flag, that's the rule, and it is one that is strictly adhered to.
And so it should be. So just to run you down the time charts there, we have the number 4 Audi, fastest of all. That's the one just reporting back to the pits. Beautiful sunny morning. Now the warm-up set off. Beautiful conditions, John. Headlights on, not really that needed. The light was low, and the early pace was set by the 84 Bentley.
I think the lights are on because the sun is so low in the sky still that if you're in a particular part of the track and you're looking in your mirrors, you might not be able to see clearly a car without some identification. So that was principally the reason that drivers would have come out with headlights on. Sun
may have been shining, but clearly track was a little bit cool this morning. We had frost overnight, and the drivers behaved themselves very well indeed.
Except
the Riccardo Sbarafico lawn mowing showing, and it wasn't him because he was in the pits. That's Rodrigo, but it was Riccardo who took to the grass, and as you can see, decided to bring some home as a souvenir back to his mechanics.
He would have brought a lot of earth. That's heavy. The ground has been wet, so whatever he brought back wasn't just going to be airy-fairy stuff. It was going to be sods, large, heavy sods.
And Hans Reiter had more of a smile on his face this morning, with Albert Fontaine and Taxis doing a good job out in the 88 Lamborghini. There is the grassy collection of Riccardo Sbarafico's early morning lawn mowing. Brought it back to the pits. That was the only damage done. They cleared that off, and it went back out in the session with Rodrigo Sbarafico doing a great job. At the end of the session, it was the Audi number 4 that was fastest from the 83 Bentley, and the sister Audi number 2 was third fastest of all. Good run there from the 55 McLaren, ended up 5th. We had a great mix of cars at the top. We've got the race coming up this afternoon, and I think it's going to be absolutely fantastic. So the race, 1:10 this afternoon. Make sure you're right there by your television to watch it.